I just came back from Sardinia. Let me tell you about my trip. So this tour was organized by Rowan Travel in collaboration with two fiber ambassadors, Sydney Morel and Haley Hodge. Sydney is a fiber enthusiast who has a passion for sheep and everything sheep, and especially rare breeds of sheep. And Haley is a designer originally from US, but she now lives in Italy. So I flew to Sardinia with my friend Debbie. She's the regular at my local yarn store, Dan Willie Stitch. We flew from Boston to Frankfurt, then changed planes and flew from Frankfurt to Olbia. And the hotel where we were staying for that night was only 10 minutes away. So we grabbed the cab and drove to the hotel, checked in, and decided to explore a little bit. So Debbie and I went out, found some nearest piazza, and had a lovely, lovely dinner. The next day, we started pretty early. And I'm going to keep repeating that because pretty much every morning was starting pretty early. So we had our breakfast, checked out of the hotel, got on the minivans because it's just impossible to drive in Sardinia on a bus. So we got into two minivans and we drove to a farm. And at that farm, we had cheese making demonstration. It was actually fascinating to see how cheese is made from start to finish. So we had demonstration of different kinds of cheeses, and it's a family-run farm. So the son was explaining the process where the father was actually making cheese, and Haley was our interpreter for the day. For some reason, it reminded me an old movie with Adriano Celentano called The Taming of a Shrew, where he's making wine by getting into the vat with grapes and just mushing them with his feet. So it was very interesting to see the actual process of getting in with your hands and smushing those curds of cheese and the whole thing. It was just, you could see how that cheese has been made like this for hundreds of years.
Ecco la ricotta. Sì.
È diversa,
È diversa. Io non ho pazienza, è per questo che l'ho fatto da prima.
No, però per dire, quando tu mi hai detto la ricotta,
Sì.
in realtà è ingannevole la cosa, però quando noi vediamo infatti i video, tantissimi pubblicano i video del primo formaggio e la chiamano ricotta, dico ma non è ricotta.
Non è ricotta.
No, è proprio un altro prodotto, buonissimo,
Sì,
anche
buonissimo,
quello,
sì.
però è formaggio, è proprio formaggio.
So what he's saying is what I'm calling ricotta. I add a little bit of cream, a little bit of salt, and I call it ricotta. It looks like ricotta. You're saying it's delicious, it's very good, but it's actually not.
After that demo, we had the lovely lunch that they prepared for us. And then we had a tour of the farm. So they just had some new lambs, and it was adorable to see new lambs, but they also have a chicken village. So there's different housing for different types of chickens. It was like really fascinating to see it. So we spent some time strolling through farm and seeing all kinds of animals. And then we got back onto the van and we went to the hotel where we stayed for the majority of our stay in Sardinia. That hotel was absolutely spectacular. And I'm going to show you some footage towards the end from that hotel. But we felt like we were in some artist gallery the whole time. The views were just spectacular. You could see all the hills of Sardinia in the background and just lush vegetation. Really, really beautiful. We ended the day with a dinner at this beautiful restaurant at the hotel. It's very rustic, like all the decor is just beautiful. And they had enormous fireplace with roasted meats. So it was an amazing meal, and we got to know each other a little bit. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful end to the first day in Sardinia. The next day, day two, well, you already know it. We got up super early. We had our quick breakfast. First place we went was a textile museum. And so we had a presentation about tapestries, new and old, and the history of tapestry in Sardinia. Our assignment was to photograph the tapestries close up to find some elements in tapestry that we would want to convert into Fair Isle charts. So Haley would be teaching a class on how to take any design element and transfer it into the Fair Isle chart. And so for Sardinia, it was all about tapestries. So we were exploring those tapestries, taking closer look, seeing some interesting stitches there. And it was really interesting to learn about the history of the local sheep and why it was so perfect for the tapestries, because those sheep have almost no crimp to their fleece. And so it's a little too rough to wear around your neck for the sweater, but it's perfect for tapestries. After the museum, we went to have lunch at another local farm. We had some ravioli with a little wine tasting there. And then we went to a dye shop. It's called La Robbia. And they do natural dyes there. So they explained us about the natural dyes they use. And also they do eco printing. So there was a lady who was concentrating on eco printing, and her partner was doing the yarn dyeing. So we split into two groups. One group was unraveling the eco printed pieces and revealing them. And then the second group did the yarn dyeing and scarf dyeing. And after that, we changed places, and the people who were doing yarn dyeing started doing eco printing and vice versa. Dyeing of the scarves was really fascinating because you could become a real artist. You had a bunch of strings and you would tie it. It's basically like almost like tie-dye, but on the scarf. So we all got into our artistic moods, and every scarf was absolutely different from the neighbors. So it was interesting to see how like some people were tying it horizontally, other people vertically, some people did the bullseye. It was just like really interesting. I went all out, so my scarf was very easy to spot. They also have a souvenir shop where you could buy some local yarn or their hand-dyed merino that was naturally hand-dyed. There were also the eco-printed pieces and some woven pieces that they dyed. So there was a lot of little souvenirs you could bring home with you. We came back to hotel thoroughly exhausted, but super happy with some souvenirs that we got from La Robia. We had dinner at the hotel by ourselves, and then the next morning was day 3 of our Sardinia tour. And yes, we got up super early. We had to leave hotel at 8:20, so we had like 20 minutes to grab breakfast because the restaurant for breakfast opens at 8. And then we were on our way. We started our day with a visit to Museum of Pastoral and Rural Life. And it was super fascinating because you could see how like a regular family would be living there. They also told us about the tradition of tanners. So apparently in Sardinia, it's a UNESCO preserved art where a group of people get together and sing. They're not all tenors. It's usually different voices. So there's an alt and bass and tenor, and they harmonize together. So it's a Sardinian tradition that they told us about at that museum. Then we went to archaeological site. It was a neurologic village, and we just got to walk around, explore, see the old ruins. It was really beautiful, like very serene. So we spent some time walking through that village there and taking some pictures. Then we drove to the town of Nuoro, and we had our own time basically to spend there. So Debbie and I went for lunch there at some really pretty restaurant that also served as a souvenir shop and a bar. It was like all together in one building, but really beautiful. So we had lunch there, walked a little bit through the streets of Nuoro. Then we met together with the group, got back on our events, and we went to visit Museum of Costumes. It was really beautiful. You could see costumes from different times, for different occasions, masks, musical instruments. There was a beautiful room of jewelry. Really, really beautiful museum. And then we drove to Mamayada, and that's the heart of Sardinian winemaking region. So we went to a vineyard where we had wine tasting presentation with some cheese and cold cuts, and just watch sunset over the vineyard with the mountains of Sardinia on the background. It reminded me Tuscany a lot, but it was just so beautiful. Did I mention that was my birthday? So it felt like the whole day was a celebration of my birthday in the best possible way. So we did a toast for my birthday. I felt very celebrated, but that wasn't the end of it. We went to a restaurant called Abameli, and it's a little pasteria that is award-winning, and they concentrate on cuisine from the Blue Zone. So everything was locally sourced and absolutely delicious. We had that dish called Egg 69 because they take a cream of broccoli soup and they add an egg that was boiled to 69 degrees, and it just emulsifies the broth a little further. Then we had meat-filled ravioli with cream sauce, and then we had a beautiful dessert, which they brought out with candle for me and sang in Italian happy birthday. And it had some sugared plums and chocolate ganache and ricotta ice cream. It was just like absolutely divine. So that was the third day, but even that wasn't it. So we came back to the hotel, and there was tenors night. So we got to attend this tenors presentation. it was incredible just to see these people like so close together vocalizing. It was just a really special experience.
E pude drordeanno a tutto aprile, pude
So it was a very long day, and I didn't stop there because then Sydney and I just ended up talking until like 1 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, that day they changed time for the daylight savings in Europe. So we got an extra hour of sleep. The next day, yes, you guessed it, we got up super early, we had our breakfast, and we drove to a coastal town from where we took a boat, and that boat ride was pretty much taking the whole day. So first we visited a grotto, and if you're thinking about grotto, some like small cave, you would be so surprised because that grotto has kilometers of terrain to it, and they said that it's coming out in some town in center of Sardinia. We didn't go to the center of Sardinia, but we walked for a little over a kilometer and then back. It felt like I was part of the Indiana Jones. Just surreal to see those stalagmites and stalactites and to just the water seeping from the ground. It was just like absolutely amazing experience. It was the Aladdin caves, you know. So we spent some time touring those grottos, and then we took the boat ride to a very private beach area. So we had lunch on the beach. It was like seafood lunch with some local fruits. Then we went on to another beach, and all the beaches on that side of Sardinia are very small and private. There is no access from the land to them pretty much. So you have to come on the boat, spend a few hours, and then catch another boat on the way back home. So we spent some time on the beach. We had some ice cream with us that we took from the boat. So Debbie and I had some ice cream. We knitted a little bit. And then it was time to come back home. The evening was ours to unwind and do what we want to do. So we went to the same restaurant at our hotel because it was just so beautiful. And the food was great there and a great variety of food. So we had dinner there. We were knitting in the lobby for a little bit. The next day, we didn't have to get up early. It was our last day in Sardinia. And we had a workshop with Haley. It was pretty much a two-part workshop. So we started in the morning and then we continued after lunch. And the workshop was about how to take some elements of tapestry or your favorite designs from whatever fabric and interpret it as a fair isle chart. The way Haley explained it, it was actually very straightforward. So we all did different things. They all look completely different, but they were all really beautiful. And if you remember when I told you about Larabia, the dyeing shop, they gave us these goodie bags. And in them, there was 4 different contrasting colors, mini skeins. So we had some yarn on hand to try our designs with. After the second part of the workshop, we checked out of this hotel, packed our bags into the vans, and hid back to Olbia. That was our last night in Olbia. Sydney, Haley, Debbie, and I went across the street to a little tiny restaurant that had great food, great wine, and we just chatted. It was our last day to catch up and get to know each other better. That was my first time seeing Haley and Sydney in person, but I interviewed them on my channel about this tour, and I'm also preparing a tour to Switzerland with Sydney for March of next year. And it's going to be a visit to Swiss Yarn Festival, but also we're going to do fondue tasting and chocolate making, and we're going to visit an atelier, a studio for yarn. So I'm very excited about this tour, and I wanted to get to know Sydney better before we jump into that tour together. So it was a perfect opportunity to just break bread and have a meal together and talk. The next day was our trek back home. The way back home was much longer than the way to Sardinia because we had to fly from Sardinia to Milan, spend the night in Milan, and then fly from Milan to Munich and Munich to Boston, except our flight from Milan to Munich got canceled. Thankfully, Vivian, who is the representative, the travel agent for Rowan Tree Travel, was right on top of that. She was able to reschedule us for the next day flight through Paris instead of Munich. That was a very tight connection. We had our 20 minutes in our flight to Paris, got delayed by 40 minutes, but the end of the long story is we made it home. And I really loved that Sardinia trip because it was perfectly balanced. There was time when we could just sit and knit and chat and have a glass of wine. There was also a lot of sightseeing, a lot of educational information. So both Debbie and I had great time there. We made some new friends, and we'll have these beautiful memories with us for forever. If you want to learn more about Rowan Tree Travel and all the tours they provide, I'll put the link to them in the description of this video. If you want to join me on my Switzerland adventure, or I'm taking another group to Uzbekistan in October. Both of those tours show as sold out, but if you really want to go, put yourself on the wait list and there might be some spots open later on. I hope you enjoyed this recap, and until next time, happy crafting, y'all.